If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need in one place. In fact, this season of Millennial and Pregnant was produced and hosted on Anchor. Here's what I love about it. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. This made it easier for me to edit my episodes on the go. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, I'm Fatima.
I'm Brian, and you're listening to Millennial and Pregnant.
As we begin our journey through our first pregnancy, we wanted to share our experience. We pre-recorded episodes for this close-ended series. Spoiler alert, it ends with us having a baby.
And if you're looking to get pregnant, are pregnant, or just want to have a good laugh with us, then this podcast is for you.
We understand that every pregnancy is unique and has its own story. Here's ours.
Hey guys, thanks for returning. We are on part 2 of our last final 3 episodes. And this week we're talking about Fatima's experience with breastfeeding and my experience as her support.
Yeah. So Brian and I had came up with a decision that we wanted to breastfeed, and why I say that's so important, and as Brian has said before, his support of me breastfeeding was so important. It's because we knew there was going to be something that was going to be difficult, and something that just from reading about it, people who suffer with their supply, people who suffer with latching their baby and all this other stuff. So I knew I needed someone, seeing that he was also off during that time, that kind of we shared that importance of wanting to breastfeed. So I really stress that. So if you are deciding to breastfeed, and let's say you don't have your partner with you, but you have maybe your mother who's there with you, or a friend that's there, just someone who knows, or even like a coworker, because supervisors and stuff. If you need a pump and stuff, you need their support to, okay, I need to take my breaks when I have to, because that's so important to build up your supply and all that other good stuff. So just make sure you have the people that are around you during that time know that it's important to you, and make sure that they are that support system for you. So we also looked at all the great benefits of breastfeeding. And I think there's still a little bit of some people disagree.
There's a debate on both sides.
Yes, there's some debate about what the benefits of breastfeeding is. The biggest thing for us was that it's that liquid gold that first comes out of the breast, which is called
the colostrum.
The colostrum, which is literally, it is like a yellowish, your milk doesn't come in right away. So ladies, just to warn you, it takes for me, it took 3 or 4 days for my milk to really come in. But there is something that's there, which is the colostrum, that you can feed your baby, because their tummies are so tiny, and really that is enough for them.
Right.
So, we did that on when he was first born, Liam. We got him out. We fed him. He didn't eat. Yeah, we got him out. He shot out. We fed him, and then for like a day and a half, he didn't eat. Every time we tried to go and latch him, he would pass out because he was just so tired. And so we knew that was a big benefit. That liquid gold that comes out first is packed with all these antibodies that really helps your baby, gives them a jump start. And I think that's one thing that everyone can agree on about the benefits of breastfeeding. It's just helping that immune system with those antibodies that the mother's able to give their baby. And it's from that initial feeding all the way throughout the breastfeeding journey. Your composition of your milk is changing. I'm seeing it as I pump my milk. If I'm not feeling too well or something like that, your milk is changing to help and protect that baby so that they don't get sick. So that was really, really big. And then let's face it, we're millennials and we're broke. So it also, the great thing is that it's free. I mean, your body, if you are, blessed enough to be able to produce enough milk that you don't have to supplement at all, you're really saving a ton of money and time with putting together the bottle, getting the formula ready. I think about all the nights that we fed Liam. It was nice to just kind of just plop him on the boob instead of having to tell Brian, can you warm up a bottle or something like that?
Because even now when we're trying to get a bottle ready to start introducing a bottle for him, it's just such a production. So I'm like, okay, what time is it? Let me make sure I heat up the bottle now so that by the time he wakes up in about an hour, I can give him the bottle seamlessly.
Yeah, because when Liam's hungry,
he's hangry.
Yeah, I don't know where he got that from. I plead the fifth on that one.
And we're also saying that regardless whether you're breastfeeding or formula feeding, the parents are making whatever decision is right for them. So we're not saying you should do one over the other.
Exactly.
This is our experience and why we chose to do it.
Yeah, because I was bottle fed. I don't see anything wrong with formula fed. I just thought, we're here for the next few months. Why not? I can deal with the challenge. I don't have to worry about going back to work. Now that I'm getting closer to the end of my parental leave, I'm starting to worry about it. And we'll talk about a little bit about our journey with kind of getting him onto the bottle. So that's a whole nother struggle. So we went through the whole struggle and hump of breastfeeding, and now we're like, can you please take a bottle?
Yeah.
And sometimes we want to cry with him when he won't take it. So as I mentioned, so those are the reasons why. So there's a ton of other benefits and stuff that's been discussed and debated online, which you can look up, talking about the benefits of, obesity and all that other good stuff that if you breastfeed your baby, you might help them to avoid. But there's still, like I mentioned before, a debate. But I think everyone can agree that the antibodies that you pass on to your baby is kind of the biggest thing, which is great because with the flu season and everything else, you want to protect your baby and their immune system, right. Especially how bad the flu season was this past year. So that was kind of our decision and how we came about it. So my experience the first couple of days of breastfeeding. So as I mentioned before, we were able to feed him nice and easy when he first came out, crawled out. And then
Hello, world.
Liam had a little bit of a struggle with latching. Like his tongue would constantly push my nipple out, and then he would also pass out. He just was always sleepy as soon as it takes a lot of energy for a little baby to breastfeed, which is something they don't mention. And he was 3 weeks early. So I worked with a bunch of people at the hospital, which they were great. And I do suggest, ladies, you talk to everyone and anyone. There's a lactation nurse you can talk to. Any of the nurses will help you too. They're really knowledgeable on that. So if you're struggling with breastfeeding, make sure you just constantly ask and ask and ask. You're not alone in this situation. So I worked really closely with the lactation nurse at the time, and she, I went to the class and he fell asleep. So she kind of was just walking. It's one of those things where the only way you get good at is with practice. And if you keep sleeping, and if he kept sleeping, how am I supposed to practice? So she had warned me. She said, okay, well, he's sleepy, but usually around the second night, when after they're born, he'll wake up, and I just want to warn you that it might be a little rough. And so I was like, what do you mean it might be a little rough? She's like, well, he's going to be hungry, and if he's still having issues latching, it's gonna be rough. Like, he's gonna cry and stuff like that. So I kind of prepared myself. I was still a little nervous, and in my head I was like, he's still gonna be sleeping, we're gonna be fine. So they bring me him that night, and he cried bloody murder. You would have thought he never ate ever, which he didn't. For only the first meal. So I had supplemented. I had made the decision that I wanted to feel better that I was giving him something, and it was something that I can measure. Even though I knew something was in my boobs, I just didn't know if he was getting it or not. So I decided to supplement. He downed however much he's able to have in the first part. He downed it so quickly that the nurse was like, oh, no, don't let him drink like the entire thing, because his stomach is so tiny. So I was like, okay. So I took it out of his mouth, which just kind of goes back to the whole thing, which you can read about the benefits of. The baby doesn't really know when to stop, and it comes in the flow of the milk. It comes out so easily with the bottle. So you have to watch that. And you can do that even if you decide to formula feed. Just keep in mind how small your baby's tummy is, and make sure you're the one who can regulate that. They don't quite know to stop sucking. So I decided to supplement, and how I felt really defeated at the time, just because it was a plan that I had, and being the type A person that I am, it, went sideways. So I was really upset that night.
And I felt like you were upset when you texted me. You said what you wanted to do, and I was like, fat. And when I texted you back, I said, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, if he's hungry, give him the formula. Like, do what you need to do, what's best for him.
Yeah.
Because I knew she felt defeated, and I just wanted to make sure that she also didn't want to give up on breastfeeding because it was day 1.
Yeah.
I knew there would be some kind of struggle, but I just didn't realize how hard it was going to be for you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. I texted Brian. I was like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, we gave him the formula. He seemed content, and then he passed out. So I'm like, okay, so I know he's fine. And the next morning, I think just the change in my hormones, I just still felt so upset. So I texted Brian to have him come over earlier. So he probably rushed over to the hospital. And I think I was like eating my bagel he brought over, and the nurse had asked me one question, and I just like burst out into tears. Like I just was so emotional. So I think just like the stress and all the pressure from social, and he's up, I hear.
Up right now.
So I don't know if I should go get him.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back to this in just a second. So that was a false alarm. He was wailing in his sleep and then went back to sleep.
Thank you, Snoo.
Thank you, Snoo.
Rocked him right back to sleep. So as I was saying,
burst into tears.
Yeah, burst into tears. I think with social media and society, and everyone's kind of putting that pressure, people are moving towards the embracing breastfeeding, but it's putting a lot of pressure on some women who are just not able to do it. And I think I kind of had that in my head. And as much as I don't think I'm super impressionable, I kind of still had that in my head, because I think what it plays on is that you want to give your child the best thing, and everyone keeps telling you this is the best, and you're like, but I can't give it, and you're in your head you're just like, I'm supposed to. This is supposed to be a natural thing for me to do,
right?
But it's so hard. It's so hard, and no one really talks about how hard it is.
Right. It's just more of everyone puts the pressure, like you said, on you. And I know when we were reading some of the things on breastfeeding, it just felt like you were saying, the world is just putting all this pressure and is like telling you it's the best, and is not really, I don't want to say not on your side, but they're setting you up to feel this immense pressure so that when you fail, that you like give up immediately.
Exactly. And I think
it's just so sad.
Yeah, and you just want to do the best for them, and you're like,
so
wow.
It's nice when you see all these support, so like on Instagram, all these supportive profiles who support breastfeeding and support other women who want to breastfeed, which is nice.
Yeah, and I was actually just to add on to that, I was reading some stories about people and their struggles. Obviously, I just like to do a lot of research and just hear about other people's experiences to see what they can do, because I feel like I can learn something. And something that stood out to me was a lady was having a conversation with her mom, and she was like, I was so upset, and I was like, I want to give the best to my baby, and I can't believe I'm giving them formula, and she's crying, and she's like, I'm such a bad mom. And the mom turns to her and she's like, but I gave you formula. Are you saying that I was a bad mom? And she's like, that was the one thing that clicked with her. And she said, wow, like, no, I don't think you're a bad mom, and you had to do what you needed to do. And formula versus breast milk does not define whether you're a good or a bad mom.
Because last episode we said bad moms don't worry about being good moms.
Good moms don't worry about being bad moms.
No, bad mothers or bad parents don't worry all the time about being good parents.
Okay, yes.
Good parents always
I'm a
worry about wanting to be good
Liam
parents.
wanted to eat every 3 hours last night, so.
Well, it's better at the beginning. He would eat what felt like every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which because he was a snacker.
Which goes back into our next point of what they don't tell you about breastfeeding. So obviously about the milk supply we mentioned, and possibly having a supplement in the first couple of days.
And once your milk supply did come in, and I mean every time a nurse or lactation consultant or lactation nurse came in, she was like, you got milk in there. She'd look at your breasts and they were huge. She's like,
you have no issues with milk.
She was wonderful. She's like, you definitely have it in there. It just needs to come out.
Yeah.
So which was also reassuring, but once we finally got to see the milk and it was kind of flowing more, I felt a little more relieved for you, because I just knew it was eating you up inside. Thinking oh my God, maybe it's not going to come out, or everyone kept telling you it's there.
And I don't know why I was worried, because once it came out, it just wouldn't stop. They don't tell you that your breast gets so engorged with milk because it's producing so much, and it doesn't quite regulate until it's kind of like a supply and demand thing. There are tons of things, and the lactation nurse gave me one site to kind of go to, which was Kelly Mom. She's like, you know, there's a lot of things out there that's telling you this helps with your milk supply and that, but she's like, the key and the main thing is supply and demand. So when it first comes in, and what they don't tell you is that it comes in a lot and it doesn't quite regulate with the supply and demand until a little bit later as your baby is feeding, it starts to level out. So I was just like engorged for a few weeks. I had to pump, but I had to pump a little less because I didn't want it to produce more of how much I'm producing. So it's so I had to deal with some of the discomfort sometimes. So I don't know.
A lot of compressions, a lot of hot showers to relieve that.
Yep. Which really helps. And also that, you know, a big thing people want to breastfeed because they think that they're what quote unquote your snapback is going to be, or, you know, you're snatched, or what is that? Is that what it's called when you bounce baby body? Yeah, when you bounce back to your post baby body.
Snapback. I've never heard of that.
Snapback. I'm thinking of the word. Someone's going to be like, you don't know what the word.
A bend and snap. Snapback.
I guess snap is the right word. It's like a rubber band. How quickly you can snap back. So what happens?
We don't get out much.
Yeah, we don't, and we're super tired. So what happens when you're breastfeeding is how it's helping you get back to your post pregnancy body is that your uterus is contracting a lot quicker to get it back to its original size. So that's probably why people feel like they might lose, or they look a little thinner.
Snap back.
Yeah, they snap back a little bit quicker when they're breastfeeding, because when you're breastfeeding, your uterus contracts much quicker, which is also painful, which I didn't explain either. It's very uncomfortable. So here you are, you're feeding your baby and you're having this pain.
Well,
in your
rewind.
uterus.
Here you are, pregnant, now going through all those contractions that you spoke about last episode. And now your baby's out. Now you're breastfeeding, and now, oh my God, those contractions are back. But my baby is on the outside.
So what's happening? I don't know. So it was painful. Even when I would be.
How long did that last? Do you still feel it?
No, I don't feel anymore because my uterus is. I can't back to the right size. I would say it lasted
like a week, 2 weeks,
a couple of weeks.
You snapped
at
back.
Least. Yeah,
2 weeks.
Well, the pain from it.
I know
lasted a couple weeks. So that was a big thing, and then also just being. Maybe people do talk about it, but being super hungry, I still want to eat so much. I'm always thirsty. I'm always hungry.
Well, I keep you thirsty.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, he does keep me thirsty. So, so that's also another thing that no one really mentioned to me. It's just how much I wanted to consume.
Right. Because when you were pregnant and you were eating all the time, snacking all the time. And when he arrived, I'm like, okay, now, you know, we don't have to go all the way to Trader Joe's to get all these snacks again. But no, she was so hungry still. And I'm like, oh my God.
I felt like it wasn't appropriate to be eating a loaf of bread in the middle of the night, but I guess it was okay.
Yeah.
maybe eating a half a loaf now that I had given birth was okay, because that was my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, and
was
you're breastfeeding,
bread.
so you're going to snap back easily. Faster.
Yeah. And so as I mentioned before, like, you want to use everyone at the hospital as much as possible to help you.
You're paying for them. So
you're paying for them, so make sure you
use
keep
their resources.
Keep asking them. I would ask every single nurse, please help me, please help me. Even if I felt like I got it, quote unquote, it's like, please help me, I need help.
And everyone was, at least at this hospital, everyone was more than willing to help you, show you, or get someone to come in.
But then once you leave the hospital, then what? So we had a lactation consultant that helped us. So we were lucky enough that, you know, our insurance covered it. So we were able to go.
It was out of our pediatrician's office.
So we were able to go there.
Which, if you're looking for a pediatrician, ask them, do you have a lactation consultant on your staff?
Because most likely that'll be the person who's also covered within your insurance.
Exactly.
And if you're not able to do that, maybe it's not covered your insurance, maybe just talk to someone who actually nurses. They might be able to help you, although some people might be nursing incorrectly. So, but what was great about the lactation consultant was that, so, you know, I was there, she helped me, she positioned me, she showed me how to sit, how I should hold Liam, what I should do to get him to latch properly. She weighed him before we breastfed. Then he magically was able to latch.
Every time we went in there, magically,
yes.
was an angel baby.
Which, okay, so I kind of backtrack. So when before we went home, one of the lactation nurses gave me a nipple shield. So that was something that really helped me too. So ladies, if you're struggling with breastfeeding and latching, that is also an option for you. I felt 10 times better when she handed that to me, because once I put it on there, and the nipple shield, it almost creates like, it makes your nipple into like a bottle essentially. So it's easier for them to get their little mouths over and get milk out. And so we actually saw a little bit of my milk come out when he started to actually do that. So I said, but it is a lot. You have to put that on every single time you have to breastfeed, especially as we mentioned before. The benefits of what we were saying is that I could just slap on the boob and don't need to worry about preparing anything. So having to put that shield on was just an added step that I didn't really want to do,
especially at 3 a.m. when you really don't want to add 2 more minutes to what you have to.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of just put that out there, because I forgot, we talked about the hospital, and now we're talking about the lactation consultant. So when I went there, I was like, I don't want to use this shield anymore. So she was kind of helping me through that, and he finally had latched without a nipple shield in front of her, and I was like, oh my God. So she weighed him before, weighed him after. He was getting a good amount of milk in one feeding, and it wasn't even really long. No, it's probably a 5 minutes or so, and he was getting the amount that he should in a sitting. So it made me feel a lot better. So she gave me some notes. She told me what I need to do. She answered all my questions. She made herself available. We got home. He seemed to be doing good. I still was a little scared or hesitant or anxious about it. So sometimes I would still put the nipple shield on, because I'm like, I don't know if he's really getting it. And with the nipple shield, you can see some of the milk come out. So it just made me feel a little bit better. So then we decided to schedule another appointment with her. And I think after that, I finally got a little more confidence, and I just was like, nope, no more shield. I'm going to do this. I got this.
Yeah, you went pretty much cold turkey on the shield.
After that, I was like, I know he could do this. He's doing it in front of the consultant, because he knows how to act in front of people.
Yeah, he does.
So
as we found out yesterday.
Yes, we found out. So that was also something that really helped me. And one of the things that she also introduced me to was my nursing pillow, which before I was using the boppy, and he was such a tiny baby that I think it just didn't work for me. I had some space in between me and the boppy pillow. So we had the my breast friend nursing pillow, which is it's a flatter surface. It comes closer to me, and it's a little more comfortable to hold him while I'm breastfeeding. So I kind of
straps to you. I think that's the one thing about the other pillow is it didn't really strap to you. It just kind of hugged you around.
Yeah, and it quite didn't hug me tightly. And then it has a little pocket on the side, so I can put my little vitamin D drops and whatever else I needed to breastfeed him. So that was also like life-changing, I thought, once I got that nursing pillow. But I become a little bit of a slave to that pillow, because I just feel more comfortable. I don't have to hold him as much, because he's starting to get heavy. So I'm constantly going for my nursing pillow. So when I'm outside and I have to breastfeed him somewhere that's not at home, I'm like struggling. But that's for a whole nother. For now, most of the time most of the time I'm breastfeeding is at home. So I'll be a slave to the pillow. It's been my best friend. It's been a life-changing product for me. I think that's really the shield and the nursing pillow was kind of the two big products that helped me. And obviously making sure you get yourself a pump, because like I said, in those first few days, even if you're deciding you're never going to introduce a bottle to your baby, you want to at least be able to relieve some of that pressure from your breast before your supply starts to get figured out. Based off that supply and demand that I mentioned before.
And depending on your insurance, you can get a pump for free.
Yeah.
So you should look into that.
Yep. So, I'm talking a lot about the struggles of breastfeeding. And another struggle that I had was kind of our night feedings. And with the night feedings, what I mean is that your breast milk, it's digested so quickly with the baby that they want to wake up to eat more.
Yeah. Which is also something that I don't think we quite understood up front is formula versus breast milk, is that formula digests slower, so they'll be fuller longer, and breast milk, because it does digest faster, you're going to be feeding a lot more frequently. So when it comes to sleeping, I think that was like kind of the thing that threw us off, was like, oh, so should we do formula?
Yeah, I mean, and some I've seen it before, and I want to punch those people. But the people who breastfeed and they're like, my child slept 9 hours. Might be, I don't know how I guess it could happen. I'm assuming they're telling the truth, that if they ate enough during the day, they'll sleep through the night. But a lot of the time they don't mention that. A lot of babies actually they can get up to 25% of their daily intake of milk at night. So that's kind of crazy if you think about it. I've only had a couple of feedings for, let's say, total of 15 minutes. So in a half an hour, they get 25% of what they need for the entire day. So that's a big deal. So to drop nighttime feedings would mean Liam's going hungry, because I think that's where he gets most of his food from, is because he's a snacker. He snacks throughout the day. He's nursing for like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, while the people are like nursing for 40 minutes. He's done in like 2 seconds. I think he's just too nosy for his own good. So that was one of the things. And in the first part, obviously you're sleep deprived, but another thing, like once you're relaxed with your baby and you're nursing them, they say, what is it, oxytocin that's running through your body. So I was constantly falling asleep, which was really scary for me, because I had this pillow, as I mentioned before, was a flat surface, but you have this tiny baby, you don't want to fall asleep. I would fall asleep for like a second because I had my timer going, but you jolt up and you're a little scared. So then I kind of enlisted Brian, and this is where your support system comes in. I was like, Brian, you cannot let me sleep. So he would wake up with me. Until now, I don't require him to stay up with me. But in the first few weeks, when you're breastfeeding and you're so tired and it's such a relaxing, atmosphere with your baby, and they're nursing a lot longer, because in general, as I mentioned before, Liam's a snacker, but he did feed a little bit longer in the beginning, and that's just because they're tinier and they're not able to as efficient to get the milk out. So he was feeding for like 20 minutes. So you could imagine that I was getting tired. He feeds for 20 minutes
every hour.
Then I burp him, and then I keep him upright for 20 minutes.
So after an hour.
After an hour of being quote unquote up, I needed someone to check me.
And if he was eating every 2 hours, he's only getting 1 hour of sleep, and then the process starts all over again.
That I don't know, I look back on that, I'm talk about how I'm sleep deprived now, but then I look back on how much he fed before and how much I actually was up before. I don't know how I did.
We get so much sleep now compared to
we get so much. I remember just wishing and praying and be like, oh God, please just bring me a consistent hour of sleep. And now I get a consistent at least 3 hours, and I'm still like, oh God, please bring me a consistent 4 hours of sleep. So you just keep asking for more and more and more. I just need to just give in. I'm going to be forever tired.
And that's what we did at the beginning. We were we just gave in.
Yeah. But then
it's been a pajama party ever since.
After a while, when you get a little bit more and you're like, oh, this is great. This is so great. And then you just want more. Just constant need for more. So like I mentioned before, so falling asleep was like a thing that scared me, and I started to just kind of just play on my phone a lot, and then I also had asked Brian to just can you just stay up with me? So he would stay up with me while I was breastfeeding. And I think
I got through a lot of books.
You read so much in that time, and at that point he didn't mind having the light on. Now we cannot turn the light on when he's breastfeeding, because he'll wake up. So we got a little night light for that. So Brian would have the light on. He'll be reading. I'm breastfeeding. So even if I kind of closed my eyes a little bit, he kept an eye on us, which was great. So once again, ask your partner to help you. You don't have to go into another room or feel like you're alone. Ask them what you need. And if it doesn't quite work for them, maybe they have an early shift. Brian was off on work, but once he does go back to work, he has like a quote unquote 9 to 5. Maybe someone works night shifts or something like that. So maybe it's not going to quite work for you. So figure that out for yourself. Don't feel like that breastfeeding is the only thing that you have to do or that you can do.
Right.
So I talked about supply and demand. So another big struggle and I actually read a really cute article about, was breastfeeding in public. So I'm to this day, I'm still nervous about if he starts crying and he needs to eat outside, what am I going to do?
What's your hesitation?
So, being in such a highly populated city that we're in, I just feel like I had gotten so many nasty comments from guys just trying to hit on me and stuff. So I feel like even if I'm breastfeeding my baby, I feel like people are going to look at me sexually. I think that's the hesitation there, is that the people out in public and the guys that might walk by will say a nasty comment. I can care less
because there's a lot of cat callers in the city.
Yes, I can care less about people saying you shouldn't be feeding out here. You know, like those nasty comments. I'm more of don't want people who
sexualize what you're doing.
Yes, that's what I don't want, and I feel like I'm like exposing myself. So I that's my hesitation. So I have to, we've, breastfed at the pediatrician's office, like obviously at like a family's house, I'll breastfeed at, go into a separate room. Have I had to do it
No.
I haven't had to really do it anywhere else besides like in a closed area. I've yet to like go like feed him on like a park bench.
Yeah.
Plus I think just we having the convenience of being in the city, like I'm never too far away from home, so it's kind of like rush home. We have brought a bottle out with us, and he's particular. Sometimes he'll take the bottle, sometimes he won't. So that's also a gamble too. So there was one time he kind of went a little crazy, but we got him home in time to
like we have 2 blocks to go, please.
So I think that there's overarching theme I have with breastfeeding is that it was hard. Did I feel like it was worth it? Yes, I totally feel like it's worth it. I think giving him that boost in his immune system, the bonding that I have with him, it is great. But now I'm like struggling with, okay, I'm going back to work soon. We're both going back to work soon. Now what? What do we need to introduce the bottle? So I think you should be talking more about your struggle with the bottle.
We started the bottle a month and a half, right? A month and a half. We're like, let's just try the bottle once a day to introduce it, because I know we were both concerned about nipple confusion and him, because he was already having a hard time latching. Was he going to now get even more confused with a bottle and a nipple? So we knew eventually he had to go over to a bottle because we were going to go back to work at some point. So we started once a day with the bottle. Some days he would take it. Some days he would not take it. It's still like that today, but a lot better. And we've gone through 2 different bottles. Now we're on this bottle called Komotomo, and we now change the nipple out to be a faster flow, which I think he likes a lot more and takes that one a lot easier than the I guess it was a newborn nipple. And now it's just trying to get the hang of, okay, how should I get this bottle warmed up? Because he's a very particular baby, as we have said. I find it that he drinks milk better when it's really warm, which I'm sure that's a thing, obviously. But if it's like just out of the fridge and only like 5 minutes warmed up,
lower than what he prefers.
Yeah, he's like, no. He looks at me. He puts the nipple in his mouth and he does this like, he's like chewing the nipple like, what did you feed me? What is this? And then some days he'll suck that bottle dry.
And I think he also does a lot better when like he can't, because apparently the baby can smell you and the milk and smell the milk from the mom. So if I'm not in the apartment at all, I feel like he does a little bit better. He has a couple of times drank from the bottle, even though I've been in the next room, because he can smell me even in the next room. So that's also a thing. When you first introduce them, they tell you just like get away. Like moms, don't try and do it because they're gonna have a preference. They're gonna see you feeding them with this, but they know they can get the milk somewhere else because they can smell it. So that was a big thing too. But now that you're going back to work sooner than I am, and I'm like, okay, you can't go a month and a half without having a bottle, because then when you have to go take him for the time that you take him by yourself, he's gonna struggle again. So it's the consistency that they didn't quite tell you needed to do, because we're like, he took a bottle, and I think we went like a couple weeks, and then went to go give him a bottle again. He was like, nope. So you have to kind of be consistent, introducing it every few days if you don't want to fully, because if you do it every day, they say your supply will change, but you can still pump at the same. So that's kind of like we had a stash that we had, and then I would pump a little bit every time Brian would feed him with the bottle. So you have to figure that out, and once again, it goes back to just having that support with your partner.
And now we try to get up to 2 bottles a day, trying to do so. So it's just a game that we're playing right now. I hopefully we will win. We're gonna have to win by default.
He's going to get hungry enough.
It'll be like his, 2 months, he'll just wake up and, he was like a different baby.
Yeah, it just could be very distressing. So just warning when baby won't, I think probably mostly for you, when you're trying to feed your baby, you're like, you're hungry and they won't take it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my hesitation. That was my biggest hesitation with breastfeeding, was that I knew with talking to, people who have breastfed who needed to go back to work, that was a huge issue to them. So that was my hesitation, but we're working on it. I think if you try to introduce it as soon as possible and be consistent, that's kind of where I kicked myself in the butt, is that once he had it and he was good with taking both, we should have just kept doing it and, just work together to keep my supply up. But we are where we are now. I think that I just want to stress once again that there's no right or wrong way to how you feed your baby. It's not breast is best. It's just food in general. Feed them. So whether you decide you want a formula feed, if you want a breastfeed combination, that's also something that you can do. People do say that it is not as beneficial for the immune system, but whatever you want to do, even if you just still want to, it's just easier on their digestive system. Maybe you can't give them the full benefits of breastfeeding. Talk to your partner, whoever's going to be there with you, and figure out what works best for you guys. However way you feed your baby, it's just important that they get what they need to grow and be a healthy baby. So I know this was a little bit longer, and I hope that this was beneficial and this helps you on your journey if you do decide to breastfeed.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, and catch us for our last episode coming up next week.
All right. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Millennial and Pregnant.
Since you made it this far, share our series with a friend.
To follow our journey in real time, head over to liliesandloafers.com.